Welcome to the DIY Goalie Podcast, where hosts and goalie coaches Nathan Park and Connor Monday share their insights on how to become a better goalie. Welcome back to another edition of the DIY Goalie Podcast. Goalies, hope you are doing well today. Before we dive in, just because at the time that this episode will be published, it will be Christmas Eve. So hopefully you guys have a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you guys are celebrating. Hopefully it's going to go well over the next couple days for you guys. Today we have a very special guest that I'm personally super excited about. We've got Jordon Bourgeault from Bourgeault Airbrushing, who's going to talk to us a bit about the how to, I guess, paint masks and the behind the scenes on that and getting into all of that. So super excited for that as a goalie who very much enjoys good helmet art and has no artistic bones in his body whatsoever. So how are we doing today, J-Bo?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Totally.
So to start off, why don't you just kind of give us a little bit of an intro to yourself, a little bit of a background before we dive deep into the nitty gritty?
Sure. Yeah, as you said, I go by the tag Jabo Airbrush. I paint goalie masks. I paint other things as well. I've done a little bit of it all, like body painting, canvas work. I used to do automotive a lot, and that's what got me into doing goalie masks. And then most recently, I pretty much am doing mostly NHL masks. I'm still doing a little bit for the regular guys, but my lineup's getting so full with NHL that it's probably going to be pretty rare that someone gets a spot in with me. Yeah, does that get us up to date? Enough?
Yeah.
Fair enough there. Well, J-Bo, thanks for coming on the pod. Much appreciated. I don't know if you can see behind me here, but I do have a couple of masks right there. The gray
Nice.
one is kind of one of the stock iTech masks from when I played back in novice Adam, and then the Hakva Maple Leaf one was actually I want to say it's like the first I don't want to say it's like custom airbrush mask that I got, but it was like one of the options that you could get like painted for your mask from Hakva.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I had that from like Bantam onwards, Pee Wee Bantam onward there. So
Nice.
prized possessions right there, and then I'm just rocking like a solid white mask now. So
Oh, no.
yeah,
Well.
it's when you have limited amount of money, then you kind of can only do what you can.
Yeah, fair enough.
Nathan doesn't pay me enough, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah. Rolling in those advertising dollars.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, let's talk about how did you like you kind of mentioned it a little bit, like you were doing I think you said like body paint, body art, as well as art, vehicular artwork,
automotive stuff.
Automotive, yeah. Thank you. So, and then you kind of said it. That's when how you got started into painting goalie masks. So, when did you realize that that you wanted to make the transition, or that you wanted to start doing goalie masks into your line of work, and kind of how did all that start coming about?
Yeah, basically, I was working at like an automotive place. It was actually more industrial, I guess, but you would paint like the same kind of way, with like the big spray guns. And I used to draw. Like when I was younger, I could draw. I have like a bit of an art background, just self-taught, but you know what I mean? I used to be a hobbyist. So all the people that I worked with were like, "Oh, you should get an airbrush because it's sort of the automotive art tool." And then in doing so, I like painted like, some stuff for myself. I'm a drummer as well, so I painted my drum kit, painted like my dad's guitar. Like, you start out painting your own stuff or things for buddies. And basically, as soon as I got half good, there's enough people, playing hockey in Canada that people were just like, "Oh, you can airbrush here, paint my goalie mask." So the first few I did were, for like a few $100 and just for basically cover materials and have a go at it. So, yeah, I did a few of them that way. And then I eventually got like, enough of a portfolio that, well, I guess even then I got a bit of a portfolio and I ended up getting a job at a prop painting place. Well, not painting; they would make them too. So basically, like a big guitar for like the Hard Rock Hotel or whatever, you know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
dinosaurs from museums, they would make all that stuff there, and I was in the paint shop part of it. I did that job for about a year, and I did really get to hone my skills there. Like we were painting, detail type stuff like every single day. And then I was still kind of doing side hustle stuff and ended up getting laid off from that job. It was like 2010. There was a recession sort of thing. So got laid off, but I had enough side work that I was like, well, maybe it's time I just try and do this thing like full time. And it sort of like forced me to dive in and start doing Jabo airbrush full time. That's when I sort of started as my like actual career.
Nice. So how does the leap then happen from doing buddies beer league kind of goalie helmets to, getting to
Yeah.
work with the NHL goalies and get on the big stage?
Yeah, well, for me, it happened like a big jump because I was basically doing really good work and I wasn't getting really any NHL masks. And then randomly one day in my DMs, Carey Price hit me up and was like, "Hey, that skull mask you painted was pretty cool." And I think he was even fishing to try and just buy it. But of course, it was for a customer, so it was long since gone. And I was like, "Oh, wow, this is a pretty good opportunity." So I just said, "Hey, well, I can paint one up for you, like change the details a bit." And that's where I added all this. I don't know if you're familiar with that mask, but I added all this
Yeah.
sort of like hidden Montreal Canadians background and information and little Carey Price stats and stuff to it. So I kind of like got to take one of my coolest paint jobs I did, and then now like get to do it again and reapply all this kind of cool NHL stuff to it. And that was the first. Well, technically, it wasn't the first. I always say that it was. I did paint a mask. Red O'Bara was on the Flames for a little
Oh,
while,
yeah.
and when they moved him there, he had like, I think it was Stockton Heat or something. I don't know if it was Stockton then, but anyway, he had like the farm team's logo on his mask still, and they didn't want that. So I painted this mask overnight. I literally did an all nighter to just like repaint a mask and get it so he could have it for that next game. Then they didn't play him, and they played him the following game. But he was only there for a short while, and he probably only wore it a few times. And also because I was so rushed on it, certainly isn't my best work. It was kind of cool, but it was basically just a generic logo-y mask. So I kind of discard that one, but that's truly the first NHL mask I painted. And then that was years before, and then years went by. I never got any more NHL stuff till the Carey Price thing happened, and then that just like kind of blew me up in that world. I was basically an unknown to like painted this craziest mask. So people really liked that one, and then from there I got Markstrom, and Markstrom has been like my kind of steady guy ever since, and I have like a few others now as well.
Yeah, it helps when one of the biggest names, I guess, is the one that reaches out
Yeah, oh,
in the
definitely. Yeah,
position.
it wasn't
Yeah,
just like, oh, it's a pro guy, and like it could easily be like like a third string guy or one of those guys that
yeah,
called up and down, but it was like, yeah, the biggest goalie still remaining in the NHL at the time, basically.
yeah.
I remember um, back when, because like, back when I was playing and, you're 12, 13, 14 years old, and, you're looking at all the goalie masks at school and stuff. And I remember Dave Art. I think Dave Art was one that I followed for the longest time. And this is gonna make me sound like a total loser, but I'm okay with it. Where Jeff Delorier, who was like my favorite goalie, one of my favorite goalies at the time with the Oilers, had like the oil drips like down his mask. I can't remember
Yeah.
specifically that one. Stuart Skinner kind of wears something similar,
Yeah, I feel
but
like it's been done. Yeah, that's probably referencing that old one you're
yeah,
talking
but
about.
I ended up just taking blank pieces of paper, drawing out kind of similar stuff, and then I just taped to my helmet. The ref got mad at me and told me to take them off before I could play. So I was like, all right, cool. But anyways,
Yeah. I mean, it's not so different than getting some vinyls on them these days. If you had it
Yeah.
like a proper vinyl and a color and you just cut it and stuck it on
yeah,
there. I think that is, if we are going to get into the DIY eventually, I mean, I think that's the cheapest way someone can manage to do something cool.
Yeah, we see. I definitely see a lot of that in the Facebook groups. I want to ask you two completely different questions here.
Cool.
Um, s- so you obviously we've worked with Carey Price and Markstrom being your guy, and then as well as Red O'Bara. Who else is kind of in your repertoire, whether at the pro level, the junior level, or just who else is in your roster of goalies that you do masks for?
Yeah.
Are you allowed to say?
Yeah. Sure. Sure. Elvis Merzlikins. So if you saw his Elvis Presley one this year, I
Yeah.
did that one. He also he gets like one done by me, and then well, he would get more done by me, but I'm too busy and too slow, so I can only fit so many guys in. This is really my biggest problem. I actually got reached out by like a lot of guys. Maybe those I shouldn't mention since they didn't happen, but definitely could have had at least four other big names this year. But I'm still doing the NHL masks now. We're over a quarter of the way into the season. So guys are like, it's too late. Like I need it at the beginning. So if I could, clone myself, I guess I could get more. I could spread my wings a little further. But anyway, so yeah, Elvis and Freddie Anderson from the Canes, as well as I did one for Montembeault this year, and that was kind of a part of that Apple project.
Oh,
If
okay,
you
yeah.
guys saw that, so the Apple project, they did it, and I was painting Markstrom, so that was going to be my only part in that project. But they were actually the ones who kind of hooked me up with Montembeault because they wanted more. They wanted more me in there, basically. So they sort of like set it up so that I could get one more goalie, and that's how I ended up painting for Montembeault.
Nice.
Nice.
And
I
those
do
are all
know.
my NHL guys. And I mean that is basically it. I'm not doing too much other junior or whatever. All the other stuff that's in my lineup is kind of old. And thanks for your patience for all those guys who are still waiting for me, because what's happened is I blew up a little bit and then got a bunch of NHL stuff. They unfortunately have to be budged in front of everything else. And then that has almost taken such a long time and such an amount of my year that I only barely got through a few more jobs and it was already NHL time again. This time it'll hopefully end a little bit more reasonably. I got one more mask to paint basically for the NHL, and then I can get back to my like regular lineup. I also did get asked about a couple other like stadium series ones and stuff, but I still have too much to do by the time that game comes up. I won't be able to do it. So, like for example, Marky asked me about the Nations game there, and I couldn't do it, and yeah, a few other things like that. Basically, just I'm too slow, guys. It's my
Are you
problem.
are you looking for something like taking on an apprentice type deal to try and expand a little bit, or you just gonna
Um,
roll with what you can do?
I do actually have a helper, and it does help a little bit, but he's part time, and there's like the learning curve part of it as well.
Yeah,
He's doing great, and it does help, but I don't know. I don't know, because the other problem with it is is it so much of it's me, like people kind of want
yeah,
me. I could go a little more, start offering maybe a little more generic or something paint jobs and have people under me take those on more heavily. But I think my sort of shtick is that I'm just doing the few crazy ones, and that's about all I can do. But it is a problem, or is a little hard to expand when you're kind of a one man business in that sense.
no,
Which kind of segues great into my next question, because I've known a few artists over the years online, and obviously like they all have their different passions and like their different kind of creativity outlets there. When it comes to working with goalies, okay, and doing their masks, obviously some goalies kind of have like their signature, whatever you want to call it, on their mask. Jake Ottinger comes to mind with the otter on his mask. And obviously every goalie will have their different kind of, you know, ideas when it comes to how a mask is to be designed. But how much artistic freedom do you get in designing said mask? or and how much of the design is driven by the goalie. Like you said, Carey Price,
Yeah.
wanted kind of like a similar-ish replica to the bio skull mask, I think was what it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
um so like how much of it is you, how much of it is the goalie? Is it like 75-25, 50-50, 60-40? Like, what is it?
Yeah, it depends. These days, I feel like they're giving me way more control. Like I felt like there was a time where people are, I guess, medium trusting with you, but now it's like, I guess I proved myself enough that they're sort of like, yeah, just roll with it. Basically, I need like a loose concept. And sometimes not even that. I could say like Marky and myself, we've worked together enough now. And when he got traded, he messaged me. They messaged me like right away. The equipment manager for the Flames and Markstrom messaged me like that day that news broke, and I was like, oh wow, okay, they're really on it, because he's going to go over there and have no masks, right? So he's going to need, and I'm late sometimes. I'm slow, so I think they really wanted to make sure, like, hey, you can't be late on this. You can't be showing up with wearing a Flames mask or anything like that. So they got on it right away, and he didn't have a concept yet. He's just like, getting traded to the Devils. Like, you got to paint some masks for me. And I was like, okay, you got any ideas? He was like, not yet. And I was like, okay, I'll think of something. You think of something. We'll get back. And then I went to like walk my dog, and I was thinking that's how I came up with the New Jersey Devil, like the Jersey Devil, rather than it being like a devil. And I don't know, that maybe has been done. I don't know the history of all the New Jersey masks, but I was like, oh, I don't picture seeing that. So that's kind of a cool concept, where it's actually like this cryptid beast from the forest rather than a devil head kind of a thing. So I told him that I had the idea of the book, because I kind of thought of like the Book of the Dead, and then the pages could be flying out with illustrations on it. And then later that came to, a more realistic depiction of the creature on the other side. And then he was just like, yeah, it's sick. Go with it. So that was basically, this one basically was all on me. I'm not just trying to say that on like, sometimes it's way different. And like customers, beer league guys will come with like exactly what they want. Sometimes people have like a little sketch drawn up of what they already want. With Marky, it's been like, we've been doing the big skulls pretty much for most of them, and then he hit me with a curveball with the Johnny Cash one. I was like, whoa, okay, that I wasn't expecting that, but all right, sure, I can. It was kind of good for me too, because up until that point, basically all I've done in the NHL was big skulls, and it's like, I'm not that typecast, but that's what I'm coming known for after first prices, and then now all these marquee ones. So that was kind of good. I can show like portrait work and stuff like that. And then yeah, I don't know, man. Some of these guys have a little bit more to demand or to want, but yeah, they basically give me a lot more freedom now, man. Like a theme is all I really want. And then a lot of times I'll design it, and I'll like show them that design, and from there they will kind of be like, I like this, I don't like that. Can we change the color of anything? And I'd make those iterations until we're both happy and both stoked on it.
Nice. Yeah, I will say the Freddie Anderson Canes one was definitely my personal favorite up until that
Nice.
marquee Devils one, and now I'm like, ooh, I think that might have taken the cake. But as Oilers fans too, that the knitted skull was really cool to see too. Just kind of the combination of
Right.
the two kind of types of art, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah. I really like that one too, and it's almost they only wore it for a few games, because they did wear it
Yeah,
after the Stadium Series whenever they
yeah,
wore those jerseys, but definitely one that only got TV time, a few times. So it's
yeah,
like a kind of a quick, like a flash in the pan, that one a little bit. I forget about it sometimes. But
yeah.
definitely a really cool one. And then, yeah, Freddie's was awesome. And so I'm about to start working on his next one. I actually have to start working on the design right now. We're actually going to talk on the phone tomorrow about it a little further. He's been one who's come in with lots lots to say and lots of personalizations. Even that mask that you're talking about, there's a whole bunch of things in there that were like just for him. And I was like going to do my video and tell every little thing about them. And he was like, oh no, like I don't, those are like just for me. And I was like, oh, okay. Cause I feel like those things are so cool and everyone gets to find out about them, you know?
Yeah.
Like there's so many things in it, like all the like, there's like a old language that like rune, which like doesn't exist. I'm sure we didn't do it accurate. We did it like letter for English, you know, but we like they all mean something. The compasses point to like you know, places in the world that like mean something. Like the numbers are like uh whatever that would be, latitude, longitude, you know, they're like everything in that mask like means something, but it's all kind of personal to him. So on the new one, we're going to do, it is something similar. It is going to be like a carved in stone looking kind of thing, but it'll all be different and have different meanings and different, you know, pictures throughout as well.
Goaltending is a matter of inches. As goalies, we need to gain every advantage possible. This is where Visual Edge can help. With Visual Edge's cutting edge cognitive and visual training, you'll improve your reaction time, anticipation, and overall decision making. Imagine seeing the puck faster, reacting quicker, and making those clutch saves.
Walking in one-on-one, makes a shot, big save by the goaltender, and it comes back the other way.
Ready to unlock your full potential? Visit visualedge.com and use code DIYPOD for 20% off. That's DIYPOD at visualedge.com. VIZUAL edge.com. Yeah, awesome. So I guess kind of walk us through start to finish, what the process is like for painting a mask. And I don't know, maybe a bit of a spoiler here, but one thing I do really like about the work that you do on the masks are like the little details, especially on the cage and the straps.
Right.
Like the knitted helmet with the little kind of stitches on the straps was awesome. And
Sweet.
even the stars on the Elvis one, like just those little touches that you know kind of make it
Yeah.
stand out. Those are really cool. But yeah, just talk us through, I guess, start to finish, what your process is like when it comes to design, paint, finish, all of that stuff.
Right. Yeah, sure. Design as well. Well, first I'll touch on the straps in the cage because those were like, um, yeah, that's are almost become like my signature. Other people are doing them now too. I like that
Yeah,
though. It's kind of cool. It's like kind of, I don't want to say it like made
flattery.
everyone step it up a little bit, but like
Yeah,
everyone's like, oh man, we're doing cages now. You got different colored clips and like, yeah,
yeah,
these things are cool, you know? I mean, I just think what happened is on one of them, it was like, I just don't want like white on it. Like, and also Markstrom was always wanting white cages. So he would wear like the red skull, but have like a white cage on it. And I was like, oh, and then I painted the lava skull one. And I was like, dude, please let me paint this. Like, do not wear a white cage on this. And he was like, okay, but you got to mask off the inside. So I got to go through all the trouble of when he looks out, he only sees white. But when you look in, you know, you can see it. So that actually is a super pain in the ass, but it is what it is. And that look is so cool. So, okay, when I get a mask, actually, you're right. Design happens before. Sometimes I'll design it way before, right? Like I don't even have the mask yet. We got to know what's going on. Right now, I'm falling behind because I'm working so much. Whatever, I got to design it and then get started. But ideally, I'd have the design done. Like I just do all that on my iPad. Well, I'm like sitting on the couch, we're watching TV. I'm like doodling away, and then you know it doesn't cut in on any of my painting time. Ideally, but yeah, I'll design it up and then get that approval, like I said. And then when I actually start, I get the mask. If it's a pros one, they kind of come like half prepped already. Like they don't have like the gloss finish on them or anything. But either way, you know, sand them, prime, base coat, and then they're like, you know, ready for the artwork. And if you've seen like those videos of mine, I almost always do it this way where I cover it in this kind of paper tape stuff. And then I draw the design on it, cut out the different color sections, and then I'll like peel it. So they'll like peel off where like let's say the Johnny Cash is, paint that entire portrait, then put the cover back on, put the tape back over top, peel off the next section, paint it all. And it's really like, just sections like that. And then in the end, when everything's painted, I unmask everything, and I have a lot of cleaning up edges to do. So where all that tape was, all those edges, there'll be little overlaps, or it'll look kind of ugly. Or say you're doing a portrait of Johnny Cash again. Well, he's got hair, you got to do these little kind of details so that the hair goes over the background. And there's a good, usually day or two of cleaning up all those details. And then I clear coat. Everything is it's a clear coated, like automotive clear coat, so it's like the same as the car gets. Actually, I use this one Tamco brand one, which I believe everybody uses, and it's really strong. I switched to it, and it was like wildly better than what I'd done before. It was holding up really good. And anyway, I clear it, a few coats, let it dry, sand it, clear it again, let that dry, then sand it and polish it. So that whole clearing thing is like a few days of work, the way that I do it. So that even all that is a bit of a process, not even including all that artwork in the middle. That's the process. It's not super easy for a DIY. It's a little bit more of the professional one. It's not just spray bombs and whatever. But yeah, that is sort of like the best. I did have that automotive background coming into this, which I think a lot of guys that get into goalie mask painting were goalies, and I was not. So yeah, my road to it's a little bit different, but it did come with an automotive background, which I think helped a lot as far as knowing like the prep and the prime and all that stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, we know that you said already that you're falling behind, and I mean, you have the Devils and Flyers reaching out to be like, hey, we're telling you now so we can prepare, so we can have this ready for by X time or whatever. In a typical day for you, we'll call it. How long does a mask usually take? Like if you didn't have, let's say, like you didn't have any high profile candidates, like just a beer leaguer, asking, hey, would like to have a mask done up by you. What's usually the timeline on that? And I guess subsequently to that, if you are working with Markstrom or Merzlikins or whoever it may be, what are the deadlines usually like when it comes to painting a mask?
Yeah. Well, the timeline's kind of the same for me because I was painting crazy ones for beer leaguers and whoever, right? Kids, a lot of them. And I paint them kind of the same effort either way. And now that's kind of also related to my cost, which has gotten pretty crazy the last couple years. Just it's a bit of a supply and demand. It's not just supply and demand. It's like how long I take, So basically, all the masks now seem to run me somewhere around 200 and 250 hours, and I get about one done a month. So that's a lot of hours and pretty slow. Well, that's a lot of hours condensed. I wouldn't say slow in that regard, but I say a one mask a month is pretty bad. Compared to like you got to imagine what like Dave Art must be putting out. I'm really good buddies with Dave Freed, and I know he's putting out way more. He's growing a bit more of a team as well. That's obviously the way to do it, is to have more people and you can get through those jobs quicker. But I know like they put a little bit more of like a time limit on how long they're spending, and I've just kind of decided to not do it that way and just do crazy ones. And sure, I'll only be able to paint like 4 or 5 for an NHL season, but my hopes are that they are like the craziest and best ones, and that's just sort of going to be my angle. And then as far as like customers go, like beer leaguers, kids, that lineup, the timeline would be about the same, but the lineup is just crazy. Like the lineup's like over 2 years long. I'm not really trying to even take on anybody new. And maybe this is another thing we would segue into talking about at one point in time, but this is sort of what's led to me doing wraps now. And wraps is sort of going to be the future of what I'm doing for everyone else. Like I will probably spend half my year doing NHL masks and then another half of the year designing and putting out more wrap designs, and so that the wrap catalog can grow and grow. And I want to be, leading the leading that market eventually as well. Currently, I'm not. I have two designs, but they're both really cool, and I want to grow on that and not have them be just sort of. Both the wraps I have are sort of replicas without being replicas, sort of knockoffs of my own NHL designs. But I want to make new ones, awesome ones, interchangeable colors. I got big plans for it, but I'm so busy with the NHL stuff right now, it just takes over.
So I
Yeah.
guess, sorry, Nathan. So just,
Yeah.
I suppose, kind of similar in the way to pad skins. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, Jordan, but essentially, kind of the same idea where I know that certain companies will have like pre-cutouts of certain pad designs. I think Vaughn is one of them. One of the pad designs, rather, I should say, where it's basically kind of cut and paste type of deal.
Well, Custom Cages does. They're probably the
Yeah,
leading kind of helmet wrap guys, so I imagine that it'd probably
yeah.
be similar to what they have to offer.
But my question,
Yeah,
but my
see, a little bit different still. So I know what you're talking about. So I believe what they kind of sell a lot more, or like kind of more for what you guys are, is the do-it-yourselfers, right? So you buy it, they ship you and there's like two sides and a center.
yeah.
I don't know if I'm getting into that at this point. We are you send it to us, we wrap it. It's actually
Uh,
kind of a complicated wrapping process. So you're
Sure.
not doing it yourself. It's
Kind
probably
of
not going to go over well.
kind of similar to car wraps, I suppose, in a sense, is what you're
Exactly.
gunning
Yeah,
for.
it
Okay.
is. It is exactly like that. And I'm just wanting to get so the way that I have it now is it's just like a pre-made design. The lava skull, for example, is one of them. And but I've made it so you can we can add your logo, you can add your name, you can customize it, and each sort of customizable thing is like another little bit of an upcharge. And then, once the whole design is, agreed upon between you and I, we print it, wrap it, and send you your mask back. I'm sort of looking to do as the same as I sort of did in the painting world, is to be the sort of upper echelon. So like my wraps are more expensive, but like the design and the detail that's gone into them ahead of time when I made the artwork is like top notch. And honestly, the wraps look so good. Like they, in some ways, are better. Like finish wise, they're definitely, the paint jobs are so much better. Like the gloss finish and with the polishing and everything that I do are so good. But some of the details are so sharp. I mean, these printers could print something super tiny, and like you don't have overspray to contend with like when you're painting. So there's a lot of possibilities with it. And I've even on one of my wraps have where it's like matte and gloss, just like it's sort of a replica of the Carey Price one that we talked about, the biomechanical skull. So in that paint job, all the metal and the sort of like glass that was supposed to like have brains behind it and the eyes and stuff are all glossy, but all the bone parts are matte. So that's the same way we do it. I get it printed matte, and then I put like a vinyl cut gloss layer for all the that lines up perfectly with all the sections, and apply that to the wrap and then wrap the mask with it. So I'm like trying to do some more detailed and more involved things for you would not be like, oh, it's just a wrap. You'd see it and be like, whoa, it looks like as good as the paint job from anything more than 3 feet away.
So now I want to go down this rabbit hole because this is intrigued me now. So okay, so let's talk about the wraps for a second. So I'm going to assume that you've probably done some research on kind of like would wrapping a goalie mask be, and I imagine that it probably would be somewhat similar, if not the same, to wrapping a car. And then you were also talking about printers as well. So how much experimentation have you done with that? And without, I guess, spoiling anything, if you don't want to, how many
No, it's
prototypes
good.
do you have, or just kind of how did that all kind of come about and discovering it's like, if I move away from painting, not move away from painting, but like if I
Yeah.
move away from painting going into the wraps, like how is that all come about? How does that all come
Yeah,
together?
sure. I got that. Basically what was happening is I'm too busy to be able to take on any work. And then I got all these like viral videos. So I get emails basically daily about people wanting paint jobs. Two things happen. They have no clue how expensive I'm going to be. And there's no way that they're waiting 2 years, right? So I'm just turning people away, And my wife took like a social media management kind of course. And in it, she's like used my website as her example. And she was like, man, you are just like turning customers away like crazy. It's like people go to all this effort. They go to your website, they sign up for email lists. She's like, nobody ever does that. You know, they sign up for email lists. They go all the way down the rabbit hole. They send you an email and you essentially ghost them. And I do ghost them sometimes because it came to a point where like answering emails, it's always not going to work out. And it just ends up being a waste of time. So sorry to anyone who's emailed me and never heard back from me. It does happen. Now I try to be a little bit more on it, but I can still you can kind of tell from the language in the email sometimes, like this is not going to happen or whatever, you know. And then and the other thing that was happening simultaneously is that other people are knocking off some of my designs. The lava skull is a great example of that. Flaming skull, cowboy skull, almost any of those iconic marquee ones. Other rap guys are doing them. Other painters are doing them, and I don't get too upset about that, especially the painter ones, because whatever, they're one-offs and someone wants it done and I'm not going to do it, so I'm not too upset about it. But when it's like raps and they're like kind of replicating it, I'm like, I don't really love that. But it just gives me the idea, well, if someone else is doing it and making money off of it, and it also, no offense to them, but they don't look very good. So I'm like, I could do this. I could do it better. You'd be getting it from the actual guy who designed it. Like all of these things are like, I should probably do this. On top of that, a number of years ago, after I painted Price's Mask, a guy that runs Price's, what would you call it? Like his merchandising, got a hold of me and was like, we want to make these replicas of Price the Mask. And I actually worked with that guy that you mentioned, his Custom Cages.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually worked with him a little bit on doing the sort of mock-up for it. The like, this would be it. We did one and then the shape was all wrong, and then we did another one. And he had done some painting changes on it that I think were very good. And then I redid them. And then anyway, the whole thing fell apart. And then later when this all happened, I was like, man, I should do that. And my wife's taking this course at the time. And she was like, you absolutely have to do this. You need to offer people something that they can buy for less money and less lineup and whatever, right? So she really pushed me into doing it, and I did it, but I just started from scratch because I didn't really like the one that we had done before. And prototyping, man, I did several. I thought, I'm just going to come up with it and I'm going to put it out there and I'll be able to do it. And I was like, oh no, the first one I printed, it was like huge. I was like, I figured that out all wrong. I thought I had it right, And
dimensions are
even I've kind of made iterations as I go. The first one I did was off the Carey Price one, the biomechanical skull. And I did it, and you have to like figure out the sections. Like you do like two halves, and then cover that with the middle, so those butt up with each other, so there's no bump underneath everything, so they're nice and level. And then you put the top over top. And his paint job's kind of complicated. Like one side's like metal face, one side's like skull. So where do I make these seams? Where do I make it? So you try and incorporate the seam into it so you can't see it. It's not like an obvious line just running down the middle. You'll never see it unless, again, you're within that couple of feet and you can actually like rub it and then you can feel it. And it basically just feels like a thickness of a tape edge, really. So it's pretty great. But it took several. Even I had it done, and then I've done since 4 more generations of it. I have like what I call my one now is like Gen 4, and I've kind of rebuilt how I apply it so that it can, I don't know, it applies with better layering, and it's easier to like kind of lay out where the eyes go. Like there's a problem with every mask is different. There's holes in different places. If I do it a certain way, and with intelligent design, I can maybe go, I can just pull them up a little bit, and now my eyes aren't going to be hitting where the holes are. So there's different things like that to consider that on my first iteration, I didn't know that or think about like how many the same wrap has to basically work for several different masks. I have different sizes. So there's about four different sizes of it, and that will work. And then I just catalog them like every time you get a different kind of mask, which one fits it. Okay, write that down, an enemy, whatever, like that fits this one. And then go from there. And I use that template of the first one that I made to build and size the second one. And eventually I just want to have tons. I mean, I thought I was going to putting out like a different one a month, but I'm just so swamped. I've got the designs to build for, the NHL stuff. In that time, I designed one, and that's what's so good about the wraps. Like I designed one, I can sell, an endless amount of them. I don't know how many will sell, but let's say I even sell 10 or 20 of them. That's going to go for like better than what one mask would cost. So it's worth my time to be designing wraps more so than it is to be doing, say, one customer of like a beer leaguer or something like that, right? And eventually I would hopefully have enough cool designs that someone's like, oh, I want something like this. Or right now I go, oh, do you want this skull or that skull? And they go,
Yeah.
well, no, they don't want a skull at all, right? So eventually I would like, obviously I'd have like tons, and it won't be exactly for you, but with you being able to like put your logo in, put your name on, hopefully there'd be something enough for, mostly everybody or everyone who can't afford thousands of dollars for a paint job.
So what I'm hearing is you have about 10 different models of helmets sitting in your garage or something.
No, what happens is when the customer sends it in and it's one I haven't done yet, then I have to resize it. I have to like check on all these like printouts that I've done, which size fits it best. And then that one will sort of go down as cataloged in. Now I got that kind, because people got some different ones, some old ones, some
Yeah.
rare ones. You get them every once in a while. Mostly everyone's got the Bowers, but there's definitely some rare ones come through there sometimes too.
Yeah, fair enough. I do want to kind of dive into the social media and the content side of things, but
Sure.
first, um, the last thing I kind of want to touch on with the paint, because you mentioned like different iterations of the wraps and stuff. At least with those, you can apply it. Oh, that didn't work. You can peel it off and redo it. But when it
Yeah.
comes to the painting side of things, what happens if you do make a mistake? And like, I guess also how common is it that like, have you ever had kind of any like big colossal mistakes that you had to like go back and eat another 4 or 5 hours of your time to to fix up?
Yeah. Sure, I have. Yeah. Basically, it's paint, so you can paint over it. Like that's especially
Yeah.
with the type of paint I'm working with. It goes on really thin when you're airbrushing, so everything's really thin. Worst case scenario, something messes up. You could even kind of like sand it a little smooth if you had to get rid of, say, edges or tape lines or something. And you could just, base it white or whatever background color and paint over it. And it does happen. It doesn't happen that much to me anymore. I do recall one that was pretty bad, which was right. These things, though, I swear they happen. Like, I don't even get mad about it anymore. I just go, now I got to fix that now. But I was actually going to get interviewed for the news, local news, because I was painting Carey Price's mask. And so that was, again, the big deal one for me. And I'm kind of just doing a little bit more work before he gets there. And somehow out of my like airbrush, I don't know, didn't have the cap on. I don't know what. I dripped paint. It went right down the side of the mask. It went right all over like a whole like one metal jaw and all this stuff. And that paint is like, I use urethane based paint, so it's like thinner in it, right? So you can't. It's not like water based. You wipe it off real quick. You wipe it off. You just like wiping thinner around, right? It's done. It's on there. It's a problem. And that kind of sucked because he was like on his way, and like minutes later, he like knocked on the door. So I was just like, man, please, for the for the interview, can you just like film only the one side of the mask? Because I was like, I don't want to have this ugly drip going down. But I also recall that like when I did go to fix it, that it was pretty lickety split. Like I keep all my colors. I basically custom mix all my colors for each job. So I keep them in these like little tiny plastic cups, and I got little lids on them. so they don't dry out. And I have all the colors there. So when you have all the colors pre-mixed, imagine there's like one line going down. Well, you can see what color is on each side of it. You just kind of like sanded it a little bit smooth, fix it up. I'm sure the touch-up took me like half an hour. It could be worse if that happened on Elvis's, like Elvis Presley mask, and it went right down Elvis's face and all the way down the shirt with all the sequins or whatever. Like that'd be a nightmare. But depending on where it happens, everything's fixable. I mean, the worst thing I think you could have happen would be like adhesion problems. And I know like a lot of people trying to do things themselves, that happens a lot. So you tape something up and you pull the tape off and it peels your paint off with it. And then your forehead starts sweating because this is a nightmare now. I've just been through so many products, and I've had those problems and I've worked them out, that those don't really happen to me anymore. There's a little bit of, people who are doing it themselves are probably buying like some spray bomb things. Some spray cans are like enamel based. Enamels aren't meant to have like other colors go over top of them. They're just meant to be like sprayed and be shiny and be done. And then they'll paint on top of that, and then they'll clear it, and then it'll like wrinkle, and they're like, what's going on? It's like, yeah, you got to really, know the products. And I feel like the only time a problem like that'll happen to me now is when someone's like, can you do this weird thing? Can you use this glow in the dark neon paint that you're not used to? I'm like, okay, I'll try it. And that's something that could get me into trouble. But if I use my same systems I've been using now for, and refined in over a decade of work, I don't really run into too many problems.
Yeah, fair enough.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's turn over then to I suppose again just kind of the social media side of
Right.
things, as well as just kind of just media in general. I was, as you were chatting here earlier, briefly saw the CTV news article of you doing Marky's mask. I think it was back in 22. I don't know. I don't have it up anymore.
Yeah, not
So
sure.
so there's that, and then you know, as well as you turn on the TV, and then it's Columbus at Calgary, and then you have Merzlikins and Markstrom. So both your artworks kind of going head to head at each other there. So how does that feel? Being able to turn on an NHL game with a client that you've worked with and seeing your artwork there on display across North America, the world, however you want to put it. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I've said it many times. It's just like there's not many types of art in this world that you get to have your art on display every second day, basically, for the better part of a year for millions of people to see. Like, you can't kind of ask for better exposure than that as an artist. Even if you're like doing amazing, canvas work, it goes to someone's house, and it's going to only be seen by their close circle. So it's really good. And of course, then there's the social media aspect of it all. Oh, also, I was going to say on that, it's been like kind of fun sometimes, especially with Calgary, because it's like the home team, Marky's in Calgary. So we'd go to a bar or whatever, and it's like the first night Markstrom's going to be wearing his new mask, and went out with all my buddies one time, and every time they would show a shot of it, everyone was like, helmet, helmet. And I feel like the rest of the bar didn't really like know what was going on. But then eventually everyone was like, every time they'd show a close up of his mask, everyone was just like, helmet, helmet. So it's like pretty awesome, pretty great of my friends to do that. And also just like, no, it is great. It's a pretty cool thing. And I mean, sometimes with the goalies, they really like, they're just right on the mask for like a minute straight sometimes, and just looking shiny, looking sharp up there. So it's really cool. I probably take it a little bit for granted now after having it for a number of years, but it's actually really awesome. And I assume if one day in my art career I go another direction with it and I'm not painting NHL masks, that I'll look back on that fondly or miss it or whatever, because it's a pretty great thing.
Yeah.
I guess also social media we're gonna get
Yeah,
into as well.
I was gonna say, because like you have about 142,000 followers on Instagram. I know Nathan's been stalking your profile probably across other social media platforms as well. There, so maybe I'll
Yeah, well,
let
I
him
think
speak to that.
TikTok you're getting close to 500,000.
Yeah, I'm
So
nearing in on 500,000 there. Yeah.
yeah,
Because it's
so just
basically like goalie
yeah.
ASMR, those videos. I love them.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd actually I struggle to decide whether I should put him to music or not. The Elvis one was really great and made sense to put to Elvis music. The real problem I have is some of the videos are long and then they'll only give you like a minute of music. And if it goes over a minute, then I can't. And it's like, well, the other one's had music, now this one doesn't. And I just, And then
Yeah.
I've also had like videos from the past, get muted, or they used to get pulled because there was music on them. And music is just such a pain in the butt when it comes to social media. Obviously, like TikTok came in, and then Reels and everything with music has made it that way better, but it still sometimes is a little bit challenging. So the other thing that's annoying about that is filming when I know I have to use the audio is annoying. We do listen to music all day long, or podcasts, or audiobooks even. I just crush so much listening time because I'm working always and always listening to something. But I basically have it set up that, once my phone turns on, the music turns off for the camera. So, but that can be
The next.
annoying.
Sorry,
Yeah.
no, go ahead.
I was just saying that can be annoying, and also we have like it's winter in Canada, so the furnace will be going, and I'd love to have it so the furnace isn't running, so I try and heat it up before I start. And, oh my god, it's a little too much. So every once in a while I go, oh, screw it, and I just let the furnace run. But I think if I really want to get it to be very ASMR, I have to have no other work happening, and they'll be like, my helper will be in there, he'll be working, and I'll be like, okay, moment of silence. We used to be like car, and then he has to shut up and like, game on, these
Yeah.
stupid little things to tell each other to shut up for a second.
So Nathan, what I'm hearing is that the next time that Jordan posts a video of it, it's going to be DIY goalie podcast in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just be
and then-
listening to myself talk
yeah.
for too long.
So then the last part that I wanted to ask about with the social media side of things is because you kind of mentioned a little bit earlier in a podcast where you wanted to do a video talking about like the little things when it comes to like on the mask, but then Marky shut that down because it's like, no, that's for me and my
Freddie
eyes
did.
only, or Freddie did. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, sorry. Well, yeah, Nathan makes me look like an idiot. All right, cool.
Insert I hate you here.
Shout out Brad. Shout out Brad McDonald.
Yeah.
So I guess then, like if you are working on like an NHL mask, because like you have image or you have videos right now of Marky's design. I'm gonna probably assume then that you probably have to probably get some kind of permission or some kind of green light from the person that you're working on the mask for to be able to publish it, even though it is your design and your artwork. I'm gonna gather that there's probably maybe an NDA kind of somewhere in there. There's only like so much that you can kind of showcase, or is it kind of just like similar to earlier when it comes to artistic design and artistic freedom? Is it kind of just, hey, do what you want?
Yeah, it's a little bit more do what I want, just because they also just know I already do the videos. There's just been, without there being contracts signed or anything, there's been a little bit of like, hey, let's keep this one secret till the day I wear it. We did that with the knitted skull one for the Stadium series. I didn't share anything about it, and that was just because he asked. There's no, like I say, no strict policy or contract. However, with this Apple project that recently happened, there was a little bit more of that. I don't know if you guys, how closely you're following anything, but I started posting the Markstrom Jersey Devil mask videos quite a long time ago. And then the Apple deal kind of went down, but I had already was in the middle of painting his mask. And they were like, hey, we don't want to show it till the iPad videos drop or whatever, right? So that was fine with me. I pulled them, like, it doesn't matter. Plus the Apple thing was big, really cool deal. So I was kind of happy to do that. But yeah, there was like 3 or 4 episodes of it up, and then I pulled them and then waited till way later and dropped them. So then the actual Elvis the Elvis series ran before the Markstrom did now, but the Markstrom mask was actually painted first. And now that has actually caused a whole shift that I'm way behind on videos of to where I actually am painting in real life, because I got to edit all these videos as well, on top of like create the new designs, on top of like paints for 10 hours a friggin' day. So I actually have like just finished Markstrom's next mask, which maybe by the time this airs will have been seen, but you guys haven't seen anything about that yet. And I still have to paint one for Freddie Anderson. I still have all the videos for Montembeau's mask. So right when this Markstrom series ends, I'm going to start the Montembeau ones, and then I'm going to go on to this newest Markstrom one. And then by then I'll be done painting Freddie's mask, and then I'll do his. So I got a ton of content coming still, because each one of those is like a series. I do the series videos now, and each one of them is like 10 plus episodes. So I got months of content here that I gotta still edit and put out, but it's good. It's going like really good, social media wise. While these series are running, I mean, I'm just getting a steady climb in social media. Like you said, that it's at like 142,000 now. Before I aired Elvis's video, I think I was stuck at around 119 or something for like forever. I was just at 119 for like so long. And then since I've started the series, it's gone up, whatever that is, 20, almost probably 25,000 pretty soon. I wouldn't be surprised by the time I'm done all these NHL ones, I like hit like 200. If nothing else, maybe something goes crazy and who knows. But just with the steady growth, my Instagram was telling me that I'm getting about 450 new subscribers every day, which is pretty wild. From a time where it took like forever to get past 10,000, like that first 1,000 even is so hard, and then the 10 is hard. And then it's like, it comes easier the more it grows. The other thing about social media that I've noticed that I finally kind of have now is that you see artists on Instagram, they always have like a shtick, a niche, sorry, there's always like, and they create this one kind of video over and over again. And I always felt like I don't have that. Like I'll be painting a gun stock the one day, I'll be doing a body paint, I'll be doing, a motorcycle. I mean, it's all different, But now it's sort of that I've started doing these almost like you say ASMR series videos. That's sort of my niche now, I guess, and I just do that. I just film them and I release everything in a series. And then even when it's done, I release the long video, which I thought that will do horrible on social media, but they do really well somehow, like a 13-minute long video, just getting millions of views on TikTok. I was like, I thought no one had attention spans for that, but yeah, they do pretty good. So that's worked out well for me. And I guess if there's other artists listening, yeah, definitely put yourself out there and make videos and do all that kind of stuff, because it's absolutely worked for me. If I wasn't putting myself up there, Carey Price never would have saw that first mask. That would have like springboarded me into NHL, and all these other things would not have come from it either, So
yeah,
you got to do
helps. Yeah, I think it helps having that big reveal, just waiting at the end too to see like how it all looks, because that's definitely why I watched the Elvis one from start to finish, because I'm like, oh, I got to see how this looks like fully.
Nice. I am. I sometimes think maybe they could be a little shorter, but it's like, man, I'm really milking it for content, I guess. It's not really that. It's just how it goes. It's like I'm not planning X amount of episodes or anything. It's just sort of like, okay, I like prepped it, did all this. It's like working out to be about a minute in my edit. I can cut that down a little, and it's like, oh, that's one episode. And then obviously like painting the one Elvis character, like, well, that's one episode, So it sort of works itself out. Sometimes I try and crush like the cage and the straps and assembly all into like one or something like that. But yeah, it's definitely a lot of content, but it's a month worth of work. Like, I mean, crushing a month worth of work into a 1 minute video is like, you're not going to see any process. You're just going to get tiny little clips and then it's done. Which I may do that too, but for the more in-depth look, that's going to have about a 10 to 12 minute video, I guess.
Yeah. So last one before we let you go. I'm just curious, like, because I know obviously right now you're probably more hung up in the day to day and kind of what's working right now. But I'm curious, like, because we did touch on it before. Would you ever down the road think of doing like a behind the mask kind of series, like a guy like Freddie Anderson? Because to me, he seems quite reserved and like he likes to stay out of the media in general, anyways. But so a guy like him, it probably wouldn't work out. But I don't know how Marky and Elvis are in terms of their personalities. But do you think any of these guys might sit down with you and kind of like, talk about the inspiration behind the mask and kind of certain little details like that to kind of put out for people?
Smells like a new DIY series.
Yeah, I'll just
I
call up Jacob Markstrom and ask him to come on the pod.
yeah, exactly. And see, and that I don't really want to do either. I don't really like to push the fact that I got these guys' numbers or anything. I never want to be like
Okay.
really bothering them with anything outside of it.
Yeah.
I'd say if that was something that Sportsnet or the NHL or something wanted to do, that would be dope, and I'd love to be involved in it. But I don't think on my own, like even if I'm just like, hey man, you think you could do like a reveal video, like or like unboxing for me, like that,
Yeah.
these guys don't want to do that. So
Yeah.
I try not to really bother them too much outside of business. Though I have like got to meet a few of them like recently, and I come into Calgary, they're like, oh, let's have a coffee or something like that. So that's been kind of cool. But yeah, I really try not to cross the boundary on on what I can get away with from these guys.
Fair enough.
Attorney-client privileges.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us again today. It was a pleasure having you on. I thoroughly
totally.
enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, same.
Where can people find you? I'm sure there's lots of them that already are, but for those that don't know who you are yet, where can they find you and kind of, start to see some of these videos in your process?
Yeah, sure. I'm Jabo Airbrush. That's JBO Airbrush. Basically on all social medias, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. And I guess if there was something where you wanted a little more close and personal, you could actually go to my website, which is jaboairbrush.com, and sign up for the newsletter. I don't really use and abuse it too much, but say, for example, if I do a new wrap design, I also am planning on, this is a little bit of a early to discuss, but I'm planning on making a online course for how to paint. Well, not just how to paint a goalie mask. That'll be one of them, but how to airbrush and paint a goalie mask, paint shoes, paint whatever. I'm going to try and make some kind of online course, so that'll also come up more specifically on my email list. But other than that, if you just want to watch some content anywhere on social media as Jabo Airbrush.
All right, well, Jordan, again, thank you very much for coming on the pod today. Much appreciated. Definitely looking
Totally.
forward to the finished product of the New Jersey Devil Jacob Markstrom Max, as well as all future designs down along the road. Would definitely love to have you back here on the pod. Maybe share a little bit of insight on some new masks coming up. Maybe potentially we could talk about it. No idea. Nathan's laughing at me. That's all right. We're going to cap it off here, though, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. If you are on the YouTube side of things, give us a like, give us a subscribe, share all across your favorite social media platforms. If you're listening on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts listening, thank you very much. And again, same deal. Make sure that you share with your friends all across your favorite social media platforms. And if you are listening to us for the first time, make sure you give us a follow, as we love to see it. In terms of our social media side of things, you can follow the DIY Goalie across all social media platforms, the @ the DIY Goalie. If you are in the Edmonton area or traveling up to the Edmonton area for Christmas tournaments, what have you, and you want to work with myself or Nathan Park or our amazing staff that we do have, you can visit truenorthgoaltending.com and you can book a facility session with us. Or we do also have session packages there as well that people can book for as well. In terms of the social media side of things, you can follow us on Instagram at YEG Goalie Coach, because that's the only odd one out that we have for whatever reason. Across the rest of the social media platforms, however, you can follow us at truenorthgoaltending.com. Jordan, Nathan, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for coming on. We'll see you guys next time. Make some saves.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thanks, guys. Bye.